Welcome back to The Race. One vocal critic of the president's plan to bail out Wall Street is going one-on-one with me tonight. He is Paul Krugman, an op-ed columnist, of course, with the New York Times. Paul, welcome.
Hi there.
So as you look at this bailout plan that will be debated in earnest on Capitol Hill starting tomorrow on the Banking Committee, what is your overall impression? Where does it seem to work, but more pointedly to what you wrote today, where doesn't it work?
Well, I mean, almost everybody agrees that we need something right now. We do need a rescue. Maybe it doesn't have to be, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon for the rest of our lives. But the key thing, if you wanted the phrase that's really driving me crazy is people talk about we're going to take the bad debt off the books of the banks, and that's going to,
right.
And that tells you nothing, because the question is, at what price do you take that bad debt off the books? If you take it off at a zero price, sure, then the taxpayers get a great deal, but the banks go bust. If you take it off at a very high price, you save the banks because you've thrown a lot of taxpayer money at them, but then the public loses a lot. And is there any? How does this make sense? How are we supposed to be saving this without throwing a lot of money at them? Paulson has never explained this, and I think what we had was a major case of overreach by Hank Paulson. He basically has not tried at all to explain how this plan is supposed to work. He's basically said, trust me, Daddy knows best, and by the way, there will be no future review of my actions. And, I would quarrel with Aaron Burnett a little bit. He does not have a great track record. Actually, some people were better at him. So what we need is something where we have a plan to actually rescue the system, but taxpayers get some ownership in return.
Well, let's talk about that, because this is from your column this morning, and we'll put it up on the screen so everybody can see. If the government's going to provide capital to financial firms, it should get what people who provide capital are entitled to, a share in ownership, so that all the gains, if the rescue plan works, don't go to the people who made the mess in the first place. But Mr. Paulson insists that he wants a clean plan. Clean in this context means a taxpayer-financed bailout with no strings attached, no quid pro quo on part of those being bailed out. But Paul, are you saying that the era of big government is definitely over? That the government ought to have some ownership of these investment banks?
Well, at least transitionally, right? Look, when the savings and loan industry fell apart, the government took over the banks. Then it sold off the bad assets, it recapitalized them, put in enough money to make them going concerns, and then it reprivatized them again. It's not that we want government running Wall Street forever, but if the government is going to pump in hundreds of billions of dollars, then it ought to have a stake in the upside here. And that, by the way, since I wrote that column, Senator Chris Dodd has come out with a plan which, on first read, looks like it's going a substantial direction, substantial distance in that direction. We actually can do that. And, this is what you do. People have been drawing parallels, saying, we rescued the savings and loans, and the Paulson plan is like that. The Paulson plan is not. The Paulson plan is, we're just going to throw money at this sector without anything accruing back to the taxpayer except the toxic paper, and we can do better than that.
Let's look at a new ad from Senator Obama on the economy, and then I have a question about what voters should be looking for. Watch this.
We've seen what Bush-McCain policies have done to our economy. Now John McCain wants to do the same to our health care. McCain just published an article praising Wall Street deregulation, said he'd reduce oversight of the health insurance industry too, just as we have done over the last decade in banking, increasing costs and threatening coverage, a prescription for disaster. John McCain, a risk we just can't afford to take.
So, Paul, we've got all the back and forth on this. Right. That's just from Obama. We have the back and forth from McCain as well. But we have a crisis that is very complex and that's unfolding in real time. So for voters, what is the leadership test on the economy from your point of view?
Well, I don't think voters, realistically, they're going to be able to evaluate, the assertions and the plans. This is where, one of my beefs with Obama has been that I think he does this post-partisan thing too much. Really, all that you have to go on, or most of what you have to go on, is that there has been a difference between the parties here. Right? The Democrats are the party of more regulation, more oversight. The Republicans have beaten them up about that in the past. Who is it that you think is more likely to crack down on the kinds of Wall Street abuses that have taken place? The Republican Party, which believes that markets are right, or the Democratic Party, which believes that markets need to be watched over a fair bit. That's the other thing you can do is you can look at the people that are around the candidates.
Right.
And look, until just sort of basically yesterday, McCain's guru on economics was Phil Gramm, the high priest of deregulation. He spoke glowingly about Alan Greenspan. Once said that, you know, he'd prop him up like the guy in Weekend at Bernie's if Greenspan wasn't able to actually talk. And Greenspan, if there are two guys that I blame for this crisis, it would be, in order, Alan Greenspan and Phil Gramm. So this is telling you something.
Let me just show quickly what you wrote in March about Barack Obama. More generally, I suspect that the Obama mystique, his carefully created image as a transformational, even transcendent figure, has created a backlash among those unconvinced that he's interested in the nuts and bolts of of fixing things. Do you have a sense of what Obama's core beliefs are about how government should operate in terms of managing the economy?
Yeah, he's a moderate. Moderately liberal, pretty conventional Democrat, not too different from Bill Clinton, and that looks pretty good right now, doesn't it?
To a lot of voters, it certainly would. What do you think would motivate or the core beliefs of John McCain? John
McCain is essentially, politically, he's a Reagan baby. He's been he came in with the Republican Revolution. He's always been in favor of less government, government off your backs. Washington is the problem. His whole mindset is against the kinds of things that a lot of people are thinking we need to be doing now because we've had the markets go wild.
All right, Paul Krugman from the New York Times editorial and op-ed page. Always good to have you on. Thank you, Paul, very much.
Thanks a lot.